Hi Libra, welcome to Pure Tarot. I'm doing a reading, not the easiest question to answer, so I thought I'd attempt how will you become famous? I do want to point out that, becoming famous for me is sort of equates success, and that will vary for each and every one of us. And to a certain extent, we can all be kind of a little bit famous within our own circles, right? So keep that in mind. We're not going to become the next Elvis. Not all of us. So, Moonology deck. I chose this one because I want to get a moon phase, potential moon phase for when fame will strike. You have 3 cards. I've been Leo and Virgo had many cards, so it's 4. I've turned them. I'm gonna read them. It's more than I wanted, but I'm being generous, or the cards are being generous with you. Okay, it says the South Node, don't let your past hold you back. Adjustments are required. 3rd quarter moon. These two work really together. Then the full moon in Scorpio says it's time to release negativity. And the full moon in Gemini says the answers you need are coming. If you notice, the first 3 cards are quite straightforward about especially if you know a little bit of astrology, and as soon as the South Node popped up there, there's so much release needed. By that I mean like simply transforming your old habits, the things you're familiar with, your comfort zone, being willing to explore and kind of explode yourself, right? Explode that box or that somewhat rigid container that you're accustomed to. Almost like, imagine a car, right? And so you are traveling through life in this car, and you need to change the car, get something different. So you're gonna tell me it's still a car, but just play along here. So adjustments and release negativity, and the past. So it's pretty straightforward. Let's just move on for now, but the cards will definitely tie in later on with the rest, right? Triad Oracle. There will be some tarot, by the way. I just like to really start with Oracle cards to get an overview. I just had the thought cross my mind about, how Libra, you are the 2 scales. And if you know a little bit about the North Node and South Node, they're an axis in your chart, right? So they always work together. They actually do counterbalance themselves, right? So you never should fully embody your South Node, nor should you only embody your North Node. There's value in both extremes. And so it's kind of a little bit similar to the value of exploring your choices, Libra, and maybe even your own internal, what I call internal opposites, right? Like two sides of your personality. Sometimes even having conflicting tastes. I've seen that in certain Librans. Anyway, you know yourself a lot better than I do, but I just thought I'd bring that up. So let's pull that Triad Oracle card now. Enough astrology. Let me keep pulling. The card almost came out, but it didn't. I'm staying quiet. There. It jumped out. You have root or roots, and the drawing is the tree of life. I'm gonna put on my glasses. I love to look at the imagery. Yeah, it's a full-on tree of life with all the Hebrew names. It's interesting because your first card out in the Moonology was the South Node, right? Is the South Node. And the South Node also represents where you come from, right? So past lives, as well as your roots, your childhood, and so mainly usually your family. So it's really in line here. It could also point to your fourth house, so basically the Ilium Coeli, so the bottom of the sky, if you want, the midnight position in your chart, where it's called like the roots, because it represents your private life. So we have a theme here, very clear theme for you. We're gonna see how that relates to fame, or how it relates to how you become famous, basically. So let's keep working. I have a makeshift deck. They're French keywords on blank cards. Sometimes the words translate perfectly, right? They're the same in English and French. And if not, I will translate for you. So let's see what comes out. Let me show you the shuffle, and I will do the same for the tarot. This one, did you see? Risk is risk. I'm gonna pull another one. And vague is wave. Okay. It's an interesting mix to have risk and wave. Maybe they tie in, maybe they don't. I'm correlating the risk portion with the things that you have to let go, right? The negativity, and I told you have to kind of explode that box and get out of that car or change your car, right? Symbolically speaking, You need to risk something. Take risks. I think you feel, especially with all the analogies of your roots and your private life and your comfort zone and your family circle and your habits and the things that you routinely repeat that make you feel safe and secure, you're gonna have to like sort of get wet and come out of that quote-unquote shell if you want to reach higher heights, basically. You know, and the fact that wave came out afterward, you know, there's all kinds of sizes of waves, right? But if you think of like, let's say surfing, those waves are pretty big sometimes. And it's scary, it's risky, but what an amazing feeling, right? It must be to be riding a wave. And when you think about it, becoming famous, you know, riding the wave could be like riding a trend, starting a trend. So it's really, really interesting, especially with the idea of risk. You would probably be a trendsetter, definitely creating something very different, for which I think you are very uncomfortable with, and probably even fighting, sort of, you know, procrastinating about, or, you know, I have this image of like, have you ever seen like when you back away? That kind of feeling. It's really interesting. I also want to point out that waves, they come, you know, like one after another. So if you don't get on the first wave, you can always catch the second one, right? So there's something, and there's also another image here of like, I mentioned routines and repeating certain routines. So maybe you're someone that needs regularity, which is a good thing. It's a form of order and discipline, you know, like it's structure, like it helps to structure your life, your projects, your work, your, you know. And then the idea of having, if you haven't caught the first one, you can always catch the second one, right? Not getting discouraged about maybe not attaining your goals the first time. Just, you know, keep at it. This sort of, I want to say, the regularity sounds good, like that word. Just keep at it. Sort of, it's persistence, but it's not just persistence. I can't stand this car. I'll be super honest with you. I can't wait for them to change the alternator. And they haven't. They won't. Sorry for the parenthesis here. So let me get back to you. Yeah, simply like putting in the work and like just being consistent, I think is the right word now. So let's draw out of the tarot. Sorry, I'm still laughing at that stupidness. Okay, let me concentrate. Okay, first card. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna place these, yeah. you'll see. I don't want to explain too much. I'd rather just keep quiet for now and get the cards. I'll let you know what I'm doing. I'll show you the cards after. This one. I want another one. I'm gonna wait for it to really come out. This one. Okay. So, Wheel of Fortune in reverse. What I was not describing as I was shuffling is I'm getting mini piles. It's been happening for the other reads, and I like what it creates for the reading. So it creates mini groups of cards. Here you probably see, but I will show you. It's the Five of Pentacles with the Two of Swords. So Five of Pentacles, Two of Swords in reverse, Justice in reverse, and the Two of Wands in reverse, followed by the Knight of Wands in reverse with the King of Swords in reverse. I'm gonna do something, okay? I get very creative. You have 4 cards here. I'm gonna place these 4 cards here. This one belongs here. And these 2 belong here. Okay, now we can start reading. Thank you for your patience for the setup. My video is enough for everybody. If you like quick messages and, you know, that's not it. Anyway, you're probably not here anymore. Okay. The reason I changed the cards was to have a card for each, you know, as much the top cards with the bottom cards. I'm going to start with actually the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. It was the first card out, although I'm placing it in the middle under the Roots Oracle card. So what I'm sensing is that you've had a very busy and changing family life, early life. One where there were lots of ups and downs. It could have been, especially if you were very young, it could have been mainly expressed through the people around you. So your family members, of course. Things happening in the household. Whoever would come in and out of the household. That for me is very clear here. I think it's created something inside of you, and that's what we're seeing on the left-hand side. So the mention of your past, making adjustments, letting go of negativity, you know, and eventually answers are coming. So answers to maybe dilemmas you might have had for the longest time about those past events, I want to say, and mostly their impact on you. Because you can't change the past, but you can definitely work on how you see those past events now, with your eyes now, looking back, but also analyze and work through how you have reacted to those events, the impact it had on you, how they have shaped you, and how you can actually reshape yourself. this reading is really about reshaping yourself, exploding those boxes, the changing your vehicle, basically changing. And I like that I'm using the word vehicle, because I think um, I think if you want to carry through, right? If you want to move along and move along faster, you need a vehicle. So your body is one vehicle, of course, the vehicle of your soul. But we're talking about a different kind of vehicle here, although they could intertwine. I should have placed the fan. It's crazy hot here, but I didn't want too much noise. So, never mind. You have a series of cards in the tarot that are showing us as well, those, you really felt lonely and isolated within your own family, within your own home. It's left you with a great sense of lack. Emotional, maybe, most probably, primarily, but always feeling like you're not good enough, like you don't have enough. You're always being afraid of the fear of missing out, but not the missing out, like not having enough. Am I gonna have enough food, enough money, enough time, and I mean all of that. So incessant worry as well. It's created it's really interesting, because I want to show you something really strange here. The Justice card is sandwiched between two twos, right? Two of Swords, Two of Wands, and the Justice is right there in the middle. I was describing, I can't help myself. Librans is what we call a double sign, right? So the two sides of the scale, those twos for me, with especially your card here, the Justice, they're all in reverse, and they all talk about this dichotomy within yourself. The three cards are like saying the same thing, right? So I feel you would have felt many times unbalanced, and that's the ups and downs you would have gone through, would have left you feeling like your roots and your foundation was always shaky, was always, because it was too changing, like it changed too often, like not providing a very deep sense of being firmly planted, like no matter what happens, like sort of experiencing your own personal strength and power, right? You might have been uprooted many times, literally. So moving a lot, the family might, you might have changed house a lot, changed schools and friends, and that kind of stuff. You could have experienced people around you as loving and then distant. You could have experienced them as happy and then really sad or really mad, so like huge drastic shifts. Or like one parent being nice, like the good cop, bad cop kind of parents, right? So again, another like hot, cold feeling. It's obviously left you scarred, but we all have our battle wounds, our childhood scars, whatever you want to call them. We're just, we all have them. it's just more pronounced for you, because it really, you know, if I feel you would have cried many, many times alone, you know, like, and yet, um, and yet, um, it would have shaped you to become very independent, right? Because you would have learned not to count on anyone, basically, if they weren't there for you. So you know to rely on yourself. So that's like the flip side of that equation, and it's a positive. But it would make you very sensitive to upheavals, and so you would be very, very weary of taking any risks. I think you'd be very, it'd be more difficult for you, because you might have learned, you know, it's almost like when you don't have something in your childhood, you try to create like something very different for yourself. So maybe your own stability, your own, you know, having your own things and making sure, you know, that you're okay, right? That you have a stable home, especially if you didn't have a stable home, or, you know, making sure you're independent financially, if there were money issues in the family, whatever example. But it becomes rigid in the end. You sort of, it's like it becomes stale, to always operate only on one note, out of fear, you know, out of fear, literally. So it's interesting that we get two people at the end, two characters at least. We can read them as energies, but we could also read them as people. If they're people, one is older than the other, they could still be two adults. They could be very close. I sense them to be maybe the people you count on the most. But the cards are in reverse. So let me move into what I'm reading about how you'd become famous with this energy here. Now that we've established that your past was rocky, that it, you know, shaped you to be very to limit yourself to particular routines and ways of operating, just to describe that is enough to say that, you know, it's almost like you're refusing to become famous, even if it was something that you kind of wanted or had maybe an inkling for. It's like you've set yourself up not to be, literally. And you might not even be conscious of that, or you might be very conscious of that, actually, either or. There's work to be done, and yet the cards are showing you to take risks. So the two people I was reading, I do believe you have two masculine energies around you that matter to you. That's one thing. But in terms of becoming famous, these two cards are pointing to energies, things to do or not do here. So the Knight of Wands is quite an adventurer, actually. But he's reckless sometimes, and he's very egocentric. So as you take risks, the card is inviting you not to be reckless and not to be self-centered. It's also telling you I mentioned that because I think that for you, in your changing past, right, in all the ups and downs and the way people have impacted you and all the changes occurring, I think you had characters of that nature, or you felt this particular influence, right, of recklessness and people making decisions and, you know, oh, let's move house again. We don't care about the kids and their friends and their school or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so it's really showing you that as much as you've adopted, like maybe to secure yourself, a different mindset and different ways of operating, different from what you grew up around, you did take on, or you might take on, the less favorable side of what you've experienced people to do when they do take risks. So you might eventually adopt risky recklessness, right, or reckless risks. You know what I'm saying? So without knowing it, you might repeat what your family circle did and maybe not be conscious of it. So I think it's really important. How will you become famous really relies on being able to take risks, maybe in your case calculated risks, to go in line with, you know, more of your needs of wanting stability and really deep roots, because it's really what you want in essence. And I think that if you took roots in the right environment with the right amount of risks and risk taking avenues different that are new to you, that would take you to would create more success in your life, would give you a chance at becoming maybe known, better known, maybe very well known, who knows. The other card that is teaching you a lesson is the King of Swords in reverse. He's so cold, and it's exactly what you've experienced in the past, right? You've experienced others to be cold and you were left in the cold. So you have this thing about you, Libra, being an air sign. You go into your head, you totally disconnect, you detach all of your emotions, and you can even neglect your physicality, your body, and even your spirituality, because this being in your head is like really just, it's like staying here, so you don't go up, you don't go down, and it's a box. It's that box you need to explode again. So be wary of it's almost saying like, you know, it's under the waves. Waves is water. The water are emotions, right? So it's really telling you to, as you try all these things, right, and you keep at it, you use your capacity for, you know, being okay with routine and having to redo and having to repeat, yet try to do so that it's a repeat that creates a spiral up and not just like the same, you know what I mean, like in terms of you go for it, you climb a little bit, it's this, you climb a little bit more, but it's the same movement, right? It's the same input, effort, energy invested. It's just that when the wave retrieves, or when it, you know, it goes forward, it kind of like the water retracts and comes back, right? So that movement, it feels like the detachment, right? So it's almost like saying, if your first attempt wasn't successful, don't become stone cold, you know, as you retract. You know, it's not about just like, you know, those oysters, if you touch the oyster, it closes, right? It's the same feeling. It's this king is very prickly. He's if you touch him, he's he's quick to react. So is the Knight of Wands. There's a lot of reactivity. How do you say, when you react, like even overreact, maybe to a degree here, especially with the fire of the Knight of Wands. You might be quick to how do you say, to get mad, like quick to anger, something like that. I'm not sure how to say. Or it's funny, it's like you have two sides again. You have like a very fiery and like very how do you say, one side that is like kind of like explosive, quick to anger, that kind of stuff, quick to speak, or maybe even flee, because, you know, here he's in reverse. So maybe when something doesn't work out for you, you fly, you flee, that's the word, sorry. And then the King of Swords is your other way of operating, right, where you shut down, you go into your head and you stop talking, you don't communicate. I apologize. I mean, I can't control the cards that came out. And what I apologize about is the fact that I was hoping to get a message more about, more positive in a way, and less about what you need to change. But I mean, all the cards are pointing to the same thing about, not necessarily change, but the things you have to be aware of, and the things that you have to work through, or that you did and that you need to improve, and that are kind of necessary for you to grow, and to maybe even welcome the idea of fame and opening yourself up. Because to be famous, you basically, you're exposing yourself. You have to be willing to do that. So if you react in this manner, and you know, either you're angry, or or you flee, or you shut down and you stop talking, which is also kind of another form of you know, exiting the building, basically. um, it's contradictory to what fame really is. Part of, in my mind, part of being famous is sharing yourself. Be willing to, for people to know a little bit of your personal life, to a little bit, you know, not all, but they would know what your work is. Obviously, you'd be known for your work. So here I have no cards that, you know, necessarily point to what you would be doing per se to become famous, like in terms of which line of work. I had that for other signs. I had really, really clear messages, and it's different for you, Libra. And I can't change that. I'm gonna stop the reading here. Hopefully you got something out of it. Take only what resonated, of course. Please like, share, and subscribe to the video if you liked it. And what I would most prefer is for you to come back for the next series, the next video. Thank you so much.